only God can make a man. If God is going to make a man in his own image and in his own likeness, God is the originator and the original. He's going to make a man as a prototype or a copy of himself.
All men and boys join the FOI, but the second part is and train them fast and make them brave fighters.
When we're in battle, you have to have the mind that whomever is facing you, whomever you are facing, destruction is for them. Because as we walk in peace, and fear will not prevail.
You fight to the death. Cause the Muslims gonna fight. We ain't got no gun, but we got a God and we are gonna fight.
And I gotta shout to my brother FOI, I've been before you for 44 years without my teacher, and nothing happened to me on my watch with my brother. And I damn sure have a lot of strong souls.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was a man that wanted to strengthen the family, because if there is no strong family, there can be no strong people or nation. If we want a strong nation, then we must produce strong men and women with strong commitment to each other through the institution of marriage.
Any man that is not producing is not living up to the nature in which he's created. Every one of you is a producer. Every concept that's out here.
The value of an FOI that has submitted his will to do the will of God and is now an active person in the mission of saving our people. Do you know how valuable you are?
You gotta want it. You gotta desire to be a Muslim. You can't window dress this. You can't say it from your lips. You gotta want it with all of your heart, all of your mind, all of your soul and strength. Akbar, Master Farad Muhammad, and his Christ. We don't have no spook God. He's alive, and our God is real.
Man is man without God. Yes, sir. But when man reconnects to God, and the wisdom of God is brought back to man, there is no more man, there is only God.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the How to Eat to Live podcast here in Atlanta, Georgia. My name is Sister Alicia Muhammad, and I'll be standing in for our dear brother, Brother Rashad Muhammad, who could not be here today. I would like to first open up in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. I'd like to greet you all in the greeting words of peace and paradise. Assalamu alaikum.
Wow, thanks so much.
All praise due to Allah. Today we have a very special show. On our roundtable today, we're having a real conversation. We're going to start with Sister Tequella Muhammad. We have Sister Jini Muhammad and Brother Paul Muhammad. Welcome to the How to Eat to Live podcast. All praise due to Allah. So before I go any further, I also want to thank Student Minister Abdul Sharif Muhammad, the National Director for the 10,000 Fearless, for giving us a platform to be able to come and have real talk and real conversations with our people. So today, we're going to be talking about the importance of preparing for disasters. So I want to get right into the conversation. Here, we have filters, but we family, okay? So we're going to dig into these questions real quick. And the first thing I want us to talk about is what made you all want to focus on disaster preparedness? What sparked your interest with that? And some people probably are wondering, why are we talking about disasters when this is the How to Eat to Live podcast? How to Eat to Live has everything to do with preparing for a disaster. So I'm not going in any particular order, but we could start with Sister Tequella because she is the disaster preparedness guru when it comes to how to prepare your food, how to can your food. So, starting with you, Sister Tequella, what made you want to focus on disaster preparedness and teaching our people how to prepare it?
Ma'am, thank you so much. And I will start out with the life of the next, the most merciful. I bear witness, there is no God but Allah. So yes, what interests me in disaster preparedness is really started with Hurricane Katrina. That's when it really was like, okay, this is something that our people need. When I researched and studied Hurricane Katrina, I saw that we, as Black people in general, suffered the worst than anyone. We did not have the resources. We did not know where to go. We did not know how to leave the city. We did not know how to prepare. We didn't have food. We didn't have anything. Many of our people at that time didn't even think that something like this could ever happen. Right. So we weren't even could be prepared because we didn't even have that thought in mind. The thought originated early on as a child, growing up in the mosque, reading books like All of America and Next to the Black Man. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad talks a lot about the time that we're going to be living in, inflation, this world falling apart, the building of the new world, and some of the things that we're going to go through. He talked about famine, he talked about watching the weather and disasters and things that are taking place. And my mom actually had all types of things in her house when I was a child. So like we really thought the apocalypse was gonna happen when I was younger. But we knew we were so comfortable knowing that if something did happen that we would be prepared. Right. So that thought came to mind with having children and wanting that same desire. It just made it a thing to not only learn more about it, but also teach communities, families, and individuals the things that it takes to be prepared.
Yes, ma'am. And extending the question to Jini and Brother Paul. By the way, everyone, Sister Jini and Brother Paul, they're married. We promote marriages around here. Okay? Strong nation, strong family.
Our nation depends on.
That's right. So, Sister Jini and Brother Paul, what made you all want to go into disaster preparedness and even picking up that banner to help your husband, as you are a helpmate now in something so important to our nation?
Well, thank you for the question. And also in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is his messenger. Just being in the nation in general, and I came in the nation at a very young age, and really put a focus on disaster, working with Sister Aurelia, if you all remember her, and taking some of her trainings and some of the things, the key little points that she would pick out or say, as it relates to disaster. And one of her key words is like, the time to prepare for disaster is not in a disaster, it's before a disaster occurs. So that's always been a focus of being prepared for me for, and why I feel it's important to prepare and know how to prepare for disaster as it relates to being a helpmeet to my husband. That's what my goal is. I want to know what he knows so that I can, best support him, and by having a little knowledge or some understanding of, what he's involved in, it helps me to be that helpmeet, and also just loving, what I'm learning. So learning about communication in another form, was a beautiful process, and is a beautiful process. And the more that we work with it, gaining more understanding of why it's so important during the time of disaster.
Paul? Love it.
So for me, Sister Aurelia, it was one time the minister had her speak to the entire nation, Islam. And she shook the hell out of me. Can I say that?
Oh, yeah. Real talk.
She shook me with the awareness of what we're up against. And one thing she told me personally, she said, Brother Paul, all the prophets of God were emergency managers.
and we'll go into a little bit of that later. But when she said that, she said, that should tell you what you should be doing, brother. I was like, wow, okay. All right, I say less, as the young people say. So it inspired me and motivated me, especially coming from St. Louis. I'm a native of East St. Louis, and as y'all know, now they're being ravaged with tornadoes. And even on my workbook, this workbook was designed like last year. On the cover, you see the arch, you see St. Louis, and you see a tornado. When my wife said, "You predicted it." Hope not. But nevertheless, when Ferguson, fast forward into Ferguson, I was living in Ferguson when Mike Brown was killed. Now, people don't understand that unrest is also a disaster. Anytime there's an unrest, that's a disaster. And so it brought it back into the scope, and we brought Sister Aurelia into St. Louis and East St. Louis during that time. You know, I orchestrated 2 town hall meetings, and it was another wake up. What we gonna do when all modes of communication fail? So I started thinking about that kind of stuff. And then and further, I said, wow, our people are emotional, they protesting, but I wonder how many people got food stored at home if this is it. Because, you know, anytime something happens wide scale like that, when people are unrest, you think this is it. You see snipers on the rooftops, you see tanks coming in, we think this is Armageddon. Right. Exactly. So I'm like, man, people don't even have food stored at the house. And the minister told one particular sister, I won't say her name, but he said, if you're out there, do you have life insurance? Have you thought about those who you will leave behind if you lose your life in this disaster? So, you know, this has just brought this awareness, and I can't stop with the momentum that I'm on. My wife is on, and those on the show. Thank you for bringing us on the show.
Absolutely.
Also, but that's what my inspiration, of course, comes from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Elijah Muhammad, because had it not been for them, I may not have had the mindset to think in terms of a savior, because we think in terms of saving only on a spiritual level. But what about the physical? So this is why we're here today.
Praise the Lord. You know what you all saying, that I grew up in the nation, and just looking at the wide scope of our people from the outside, they do not think about disasters until, like you all said, until they're in a disaster. So that will lead me into my next question for you all. And again, this is a dialogue. We're dialoguing here. In a time of war, we know that the first thing they take away from the people is communication. So I'm going back to you, Brother Paul, with what you're doing. How important is the handheld radio? What is that? How can our people, you know, get their hands on that? What do you?
Well, think about it. You know, we're so inundated with our phones now, right?
Right.
We can't put our phone down, myself included, sometimes, because it's a way to detach from the world, right?
Right.
But what happens when you can't use it?
Right.
What happens when the internet don't work? The phone don't work? The TVs don't work? It's a grid down situation. The electricity is out. Have we thought about how will we communicate with one another? How we communicate with our loved ones?
Yes.
So, like I said, with Bob Ferguson, that's when it hit me. Like, wow, because they were jamming our cell phone signals while we were out there. And not only that, if you get 100 people in one area trying to make a phone call at the same time, trying to send out video, you get what's called a traffic jam. Right. So it was traffic jam, and they were deliberately jamming our signals. So it hit me like a ton of bricks. I said, and then Allah gave me the answer. He said ham radio. We call it lamb radio now, but we don't eat ham. So we call it lamb radio. And why is this more important than, say, any other device? This whole analog device that if you go and type ham radio in Hurricane Katrina, just to mention Hurricane Katrina, you'll see that ham radio has come to the rescue in almost every disaster. Because communication is essential in all areas of people activity. Communication is essential inside your body, right? If your lungs don't communicate with your brain, disease could set in, or there could be a malfunction. Business, relationships, communication is vital. It's like the skeleton, as Brother Wahid said to me about the communication. He said, brother, what you're doing It's like the skeletal system of all the systems. He said, you can have a heart, you can have a brain. He said, but if you don't have a skeleton to hold it up, it won't function.
That's right.
You know, the nerve endings won't connect into the place that they need to connect. So that's why this is so important, because it helps us create a survival nervous system. So when it all goes down, I can communicate. What's your name, my brother?
Brother James.
Brother James. I can communicate with Brother James if I understand the technology. We'll still be running while nothing else is running, even though it's old and analog, but it's saving lives.
That's right.
So I'm gonna leave it on that for that, just that moment. But that's the importance. And that's why in warfare, the first thing in casualty is communication.
Yes, that's it.
Or in slavery, if you spoke French speaking slave Negro, they put you with a Portuguese speaking slave Negro, right? So y'all can't communicate because they can conquer you better. So that's the importance of the radio communication.
It's between a lot. Dr. Jini?
Yes, well, as it relates to the ham radio, so just to pick up where my husband left off a little bit, because he again is the architect of understanding this device, is that when enough of us actually learn the technology is where it's going to be most effective for us. Because once we learn the technology, have the technology, acquire what we need to use the technology, then I could be in Villa Rica and you could be in Locust Grove, and I can communicate with you via ham radio in the event the system is down. Or I can communicate with you across the country, you know, with enough equipment, or even just knowing how to use the equipment, because it doesn't use the regular signals. We can bounce off the ionosphere, you know, to actually get communication from one point to the other point.
Yes.
You know, we can communicate with the space station, you know, if we know where it's located at that point in time, and bounce signals from there. So it's an understanding of knowing that this is useful, because when the grid goes down, not if, when the grid goes down, you know, we got to know still how to communicate to my people that might be in Vegas, you know, and understand, are they okay? Because I can't communicate with them via cell phone. So that's why this device is important, especially during disaster, but even beforehand, getting enough of us to know and learn the technology, so that we can be more effective as being helpers and saviors for our people.
Yeah. So, Tequella, I will ask you about this, because you are a great example for a lot of us on preparing for disaster. And I know that I'm calling them handheld radio. I didn't even know it was called handheld radio. That's how far away I was from. So with that, what are some of the things that you have that you can share with the people in regards to communication yourself?
The same thing actually. I took Paul's class before as well. I probably do not remember all of the necessary instructions on how to use it. But it's really important, and also like even with having children. So I do have several ham radios. I got the right one. But I have several, and also actually reach out to Jini as well, because I wanted my boys to also learn how to use it. But it's really important even for like an emergency. What if, you know, somebody in the house is dying and there's no there's no communication. You got to be able to let somebody know, like, my mom is about to die. How can I get someone here? You know, it can be something as simple as that. And if we don't, like you all said, know how to use this tool, have it readily available, then we can lose life very quickly. You can get lost and stranded. One of the things I also saw, like with disasters, is when, you know, a tornado hits, nothing looks the same. Things are not in the same place. So you may be driving down the street, you may know the street like the back of your hand, but when certain disasters hit, people came outside and was like, why is there a football and, you know, field right here? Because everything gets, you know, and so you may not, you're not going to have GPS, you're not going to have anything to tell you where you are. So you may have to, you know, rely on the ham radios and communication and, you know, finding your way from where you are. So it's really a useful tool. It's very important, and it's really important for us to understand the science of communication. Like Sister Jini and Brother Paul said, it's really between life and death in some situations. Yep.
If I may give an example, I was coming through Nashville, Tennessee one day, and I at that time I was a storm spotter. I was certified with National Weather Service, so I knew how to look at clouds and tell if it was a potential tornado cloud. And but when you traveling, so I'm going to St. Louis or coming from, so I got on my radio, I checked where the repeaters were, and I was able to talk to a guy in the mountains while I'm driving. And he told me, he gave me the whole forecast, told me where the tornado was, that I was going in the right direction, away from it. So that's how vital it is, because you might be going into the crisis.
And I lived in Nashville for a year, and I slept through the tornado. It went through downtown. I didn't even hear the siren, whatever. But Allah was protecting me.
That's right.
Praise be to Allah. And I didn't have nothing because I had just moved there, and I was like, oh, I'm in tornado land. Nashville, Tennessee, they have tornadoes very, very frequently because it kind of flats, depending on some of the areas. But I want to go into the next question that I have for you all before we go to our commercial break, because we do have commercials. What in How to Eat to Live, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Honorable Sparkle has been teaching us for years what foods to eat, how to prepare our foods. When it comes to a disaster, and this is for everybody at the table, how do we prepare our food? What food should we be preparing, and how should we be preparing those foods in case of an emergency or disaster?
All right, so I just have a couple of examples. One of the things we've been taught is canning our food, so preserving our food. And then I also have an example here. This is some freeze-dried food, which typically lasts 25 years. It's dehydrated navy bean soup. They pretty much make the soup in its entirety, put all the vegetables, seasonings, and everything in it. You put it on the freeze-dried tray, and it kind of freeze dries it, but it makes it real light and fluffy. Kind of blend it up, and then it basically you add water to it, and you guys have it later. It'll last for a while. And I use this as a demonstration because a lot of times you go into the stores and you're seeing like all these, emergency food rations and things like that. And I always encourage everyone, do not buy that stuff. Right. Because in the case of a real emergency, you need food that is nutritious. Mm-hmm. You don't need food that has 560 grams of sodium, which is what's in this stuff. Mm-hmm. High levels of protein that's not a normal amount for us with intake at one time. Mm-hmm. Super high levels of sugar. Mm-hmm. And some people, they are preppers, so they say, and they don't care. They're just like, it's something to eat. Mm-hmm. But if you have to walk a long way, you have to evacuate where you are. Mm-hmm. You need something that's going to give you the energy that you need to sustain. Right. So we've been taught that the navy bean has both of the nutrition that we need, mm-hmm. both the vitamins that we need. So you want to start there. You want to start with what you eat first and foremost. You don't want to go to the store and just go buy everything. And that's what a lot of people are doing. That's what you see a lot of these so-called preppers doing. Mm-hmm. It's just stocking up their homes, hoarding food. And we're not given that instruction. Right. We already have been given in How to Eat to Live Book 1 and 2, a simple diet. Yeah. He said that simple foods are best. So I always encourage us to buy what we eat. Mm-hmm. And you can buy it in bulk. You can buy rice in bulk. You can buy navy beans in bulk. Right. You can buy the lentils in bulk, sugar in bulk. Mm-hmm. And you want to just have ways to preserve these items, store them up. You want to go ahead right now and start self-preserving. Learn the science of canning. Yeah. Learn that science, because we've been taught that and we've been given that instruction in our MGT class as sisters, mm-hmm. to start learning that process in canned food, because this right here is readily made. It's already, it's ready for you to eat now. You can just pour this in the pan and heat it up, or you can just eat it out the jar. Mm-hmm. And it has its same initial nutrition as it did when you didn't start the process. Mm-hmm. And so this is what we should be doing, is preparing our homes, our families, by teaching that. You can teach it to your children. Mm-hmm. The same with other things in How to Eat to Live. Get off the meat, learn how to fast, learn how to eat one meal a day, learn how to fast for 3 days. Why is these things important? Because one day you may not be able to have food. You may have to go 2, 3, 4, 5 days without food. I know that we're looking at what's going on across, the world, and we're watching famine take place. Yes. And one of the things that we've been taught is that famine doesn't just happen one day. It's not like you wake up and boom, you're in famine. Famine is a process of time. So right now, we're dealing with famine because even if you go to the grocery stores, the food is not food. It's true. So if you're eating this stuff thinking that, okay, I got something to eat, there is no nutritional value in this. And so if we stick to how to eat to live like we've been taught, we're already, first of all, prepared to go to a disaster. But then if we have the things that are necessary in our homes prepared, then we're able to survive.
Right. So we'll do, you all can answer that as well, and then we're gonna take a commercial break.
Okay. Well said, Tequella. What foods to store? And thinking of terms of, like she said, going in the store and just prepping, buying up bulk. These canned goods that we get in the store, again, oftentimes have a lot of preservatives and also have an expiration date. And you don't know the quality of preparation as well that went into preserving those foods and canned goods or even glass goods that you buy off the store. But when you do it yourself and you preserve it yourself, you know the quality that was put into it, and you feel more secure and safe in feeding it to yourself as well as to your family. You have to think in terms of, if I'm stuck in a disaster at home, what's readily available. If I'm stuck in a disaster and I have to be on foot, what can I readily take with me? So as we mentioned, the item in the Mylar bag, that's compact. It's light, so you'll be able to store more than putting our glass jars in some type of, carry package and transporting that. So just think in terms of, what am I able to package, put together, so that if I need to be on foot or in my vehicle, because again, you don't want a lot of bulk heavy stuff in your vehicle because that's going to consume gas, right?
Right.
So you have to think in terms of how well I'm going to prepare, who I need to prepare for, depending on your household size and their needs, in terms of, for however a long period of time. But just think in terms of, if we think in terms right now, St. Louis, right? And the devastation in some of those areas, they're not immediately able to get back into their homes, as so they got to think in long term, right? So we should think in long term, maybe 30 days supply of stuff that we're able to just pick up and take with us. And then again, preparation. If we prepare now, it prevents poor performance later, right? So keep 5 P's. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. So we prepare now so that we don't have to be stuck in disaster mindset later.
Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, lastly, I'll add testing our theory. Testing your equipment, we got to run scenarios with the food as well to see what your tolerance is. We got to take our family and say, this weekend, this is how we're gonna act. We're gonna turn the lights off. We're gonna put aside whatever food we would think we would eat. That's all we're gonna eat for maybe 3 days, and see how we perform. Because it's like a boxer. He trains to box before he box, right? He don't just go box.
That's right.
Because he could shock himself.
Yeah.
But it's like exercising your muscle and conditioning yourself. So we training and conditioning ourselves. So we need to test our theories so that we can be more efficient. Yes, sir.
I'll tell you who used to test our theory. My mom had 10 children. She used to make us play the quiet game. She said one day we're gonna be somewhere where you have to be quiet. And that is so important, to teach your children how to be quiet. Because if the enemy walking past, they did it to the Jews. They could hear them through the wall.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Because they did not be quiet. Right. If your children are not obedient and do not train, you don't train them for disasters, then you're going to be messed up. So with that said, we're going to take a commercial break and we'll be right back. Next, when we come back, I'm going to ask y'all about why they take all the tissue paper coat. So we'll be right back.
But these are the people that if you bless us, then God will take off of America some of the plagues that are now coming on America that will get worse after I deliver this message tonight.
It is your mistreatment at the hands of white people that has caused God to send down his judgment on America. Now you, in your silliness, are so forgiving. White folk ain't even asked for forgiveness. I want you to hear me. White folk haven't even acknowledged that they did you wrong. They have not repented for what they did to your fathers and what they're doing to you and what they plan against your future. But God knows their thoughts, their plans, and because he knew them before they came into existence, he planned their destruction before they were born. I want you to hear me. See, God delays judgment so that his people will see that the people he has judged are worthy of what they're about to get. Do you hear me? America is in trouble, and I say, God, is about to wipe this nation from the face of the earth. Now listen, I'm not crazy, I'm not drunk. How long do you think a nation can do evil and not face the judgment and the wrath of God? Many of you play with God. You want God to be all loving and merciful. He loves you, all right, but he kills people out of the same love. I'm going to say that again. You can put Hitler, Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan, Tamerlane, put them all in the same boat. They've never killed as many people as God. That death has now entered into America. One calamity after another is coming. Oh, black people, get up out of the slop trough and look. What do you think these floods are? What do you think the winds are? What do you think the unusual rain, the unusual snow, the violent storms, the hail storms, the pestilence is coming, it's here. Famine is on the way. And Mickey D won't be able to give you a burger. The Bible says you will look at your own fat children.
Massive fish and bird kills in Arkansas. Up to 5,000 blackbirds fell from the sky in the town of Jini. This happened just before midnight on New Year's Eve. And then tonight, we're learning that some 100,000 fish have washed up on the shores of the Arkansas River, which is about 125 miles from where the birds.
They're made from here, the finest steel. Oh man, they fly at speed. They clock them at 9,000 and more. Those people are the angels. They're up there. They know what you think. Like a piece of property. I'm going to deprive them of what every human being needs to function. Knowledge. You ain't gone no place yet. he still got you. You my niggas, you my property, you my whore, you my bitch. Cause I'm gonna turn you, black woman, from the woman of God into a human dog. How in the hell can you forget what made you the nigger that you are right now? How can you forget what made you the whore, the bitch, the freak, the dope seller, the drive-by shooter, the gang banger, the pimp, the hustler, the liar, the thief, the adulterer, the fornicator? How can you forget? And if God permits them to kill me, then it's all right, because I know I can never die. That's right. I can never die. You will never kill Farrakhan, because what I am, you'll never kill it. The flesh you can send back to the earth, but what makes me me is God in me.
Things that you said we were to gain. What about killing fears?
I cannot use my brain for treating these children. We have no facility. And we decided not.
That you said was yours and mine. Did you ever stop to notice all the blood we've shed before?
I speak for the dead who died under the whip and the lash and the gun at the tree, drowned in the rivers and the lakes. I speak for those who are silent now, and many of you may have forgotten the sacrifice of those who put you in those seats, but I cannot forget.
What have we done to the world?
The reason I have them around me is to make a statement that women are no longer to be shut off and shut up and held back and denied what God has put in them. The woman must be elevated, or the nation will never come up. A nation can rise no higher than its woman. So let's lift the woman up. And sisters, if you've got the intelligence, come on and put it to work. And let the men follow you till they can develop the intelligence to lead.
Welcome back, everyone, to the How to Eat to Live podcast. Once again, this edition of our podcast is the importance of preparing for disasters. So before we left, we went into famine, and I wanted to read something really quick from The Fall of America. These books are up here because they all intertwine with each other. The Fall of America, which is happening right now, and the How to Eat to Live are very, very important. But this is page 87, chapter 20, The Decline of the Dollar. I'm just going to read just a little bit. It says, the stronghold of the American government is falling to pieces. She has lost her prestige among the nations of the earth. One of the greatest powers of America was her dollar. I wanted to read that because money is important when it comes to our food and having it. But the inflation and the loss of the food that we have in our supermarkets, we can't afford it. I want to open up this second segment of our show with, especially to you all, because you all are striving to become masters of how to prepare for disasters. And that is very key, you know, to our survival as a nation. We have to have people in the forefront that are ready and willing to take that banner to get us over to the other side. It's not going to just be only the minister standing in front of us. He has to have soldiers ready to go. And we're talking about 10,000 fearless. We are the ones, we are the forefront, the foremost to get across, to help our minister get us across to safe waters. So with the American dollar falling so rapidly, how would this affect us with the famine? How can we help our people with preparing for this? Because it's happening every day. So,
I think first and foremost, it's about knowing what to do and when to do it, and understanding the stages. You have inflation, you have hyperinflation, right? Then you have what's called when it hits the fan. I won't say the word. So, because when it hits the fan, nobody's using money no more.
That's right.
So you got to know what to do and when to do it. So, you know, we should be buying gold and silver in certain increments. Also, so at a certain point, coffee becomes money.
Coffee.
Food becomes money when things hit the fan, because now people ain't using dollars. If the dollar collapsed right now, we're gonna still have a means of exchange. It just won't be fiat currency, right? So one of the things we can do is begin to understand and go back and study history. Go back and study a recession. What is a recession? Go back and study a depression. What happened during the Great Depression? People standing in soup lines, right?
Right.
What's happening in St. Louis right now? So after 3 days, the Kool-Aid go bad that you've been drinking, right?
Yep.
The food in the freezer go bad. So now unity, people are uniting in St. Louis, and they on the corners cooking hot dogs, and I mean, we don't eat hot dogs, but they doing it. They help each other.
Yes.
But the bean soup, that sister mentioned, we can feed a community with very little soup.
That's right.
So we got to start thinking about that, preparing our neighbors, because they're gonna come kill us because we said we do,
That's
right? They're gonna smell your soup. So it's better to now go to them and say, hey, look, you might have to prepare for them.
Right.
Hey, you might have to, well, this is for my neighbor right here. They ain't preparing that, this for them.
Yes.
But like Sister Aurelia said this to me. She was putting together food for her husband. She was storing food for her husband along with herself, right? Well, guess what? She didn't have a husband.
Oh, wow.
She's preparing it in.
She was preparing it in advance for her.
Gonna make me
Preparation, man. We're taught the wise black men of Asia could see down through the wheel of time. But we got to at least be able to see through the year.
That's it. Yeah.
And make preparation. It's going to be different for everybody. So I don't want to say, but one of the most critical things that we need to think about is water. I'm going to leave it there. We can come back to it. Water.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna add on to the water, because I never thought in a million years at 18 years old I would be asked to become a general manager over water. And I'm talking about the minister has water, free spring water. And I didn't even drink water like that. I was like, I don't want to do that. But I had to learn so much in seeing how bad our people in Flint, Michigan were getting treated, and the poison that was in the water that was killing them, because they didn't have any knowledge of what they were drinking. They were dying. And I honestly don't think that water crisis is over. They have just shut people up.
Right.
So that water is so important. We have to drink it. And we have to know what kind of water to drink, because all of it is not good. So please stop drinking Fiji water. Please stop drinking. It has fluoride in it.
Yeah.
Please stop drinking all of this Aquafina and all of these different waters unless you know what you're drinking, because you're killing yourself.
Yeah.
Even when you're over drinking the what's the pH? What's that water? Alkaline water. You have natural alkaline in you. Too much alkaline is bad for you. So after 30 days you're supposed to stop. I digress. So we're gonna go over to Sister Jini. She want to add anything to that as well, and then we'll go to Sister Tequella.
Absolutely. So when I think of famine, I just want to think of the Most Honorable Black Chahana said, what we see abroad
Yes.
is coming to our doors, right? So we think about our brothers and sisters in Palestine, right? They're going through famine.
Yes.
Food is being withheld from them. And I think about our lack of being free because we don't have land. We don't have a way really to produce for ourselves. So it's easy for them to shut off our access to resources, which could put us in a situation of reduced food or to the potential of famine, scarcity of food. So if we think about now in terms of preparing, we have to prepare now as far as uniting, coming together, getting some land so that in acquiring our land, we can then begin to produce something for ourselves so that we become more viable in the bartering system that's going to come down the line when money is no longer valuable because the dollar is declining.
Yes.
The most Elijah Muhammad said, you're going to see $100 floating down the street. People going to use it as toilet tissue, because it's going to have no value. So now you also think about in terms of storing what could be valuable in the time of a disaster so that we do have an option or opportunities to barter with other people because of what we, have prepared for. So we got to think about who has control over what we need access to and what we can control ourselves in this hour so that we can be a part of helping versus a part of the problem.
That's right. She mentioned about the toilet paper, so just to add to that, and Angela said, first I wanted to add that the dollar is already, and there really is nowhere you can go. There's nowhere you can go. Pretty much. I mean, chips, used to be, $4. They are $1.25 now. $1.03 is $1.25. It's not $1.03. So yeah, they're showing us that the dollar is gone. Absolutely. And with that, people are aware that bartering works and makes sense. So when COVID hit, one of the things that people knew that they needed was toilet paper. Yeah. They knew that you can't, how far are you gonna go? I mean, you can afford to use towels and all that. But who wants to do that? Absolutely. So, people were piling into the stores, grabbing things that they knew that they could barter to a neighbor or something, or just even for themselves of having it, they knew the necessity. So when it comes to disaster preparedness, we have to know the necessity of not just what we need to have in our homes, but like Brother Paul said earlier, like knowing how to use these things, taking classes. Like our duty is to teach and train our people on what you need, why you need, why you should start now. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has taught us about the things that we needed years ago, in the 30s. So there is no, and in the 70s, there's no reason why we should be begging ourselves to have water. That was the first step. Right. And I go to houses and I assess their kids and look at the things that they should have. And it's like the people don't have water. And I always tell them that I say, you're going to have water coming out of your faucet that you're not going to be able to use. That's right. Yeah. But you're going to be thirsty. Yeah. And your babies are going to be thirsty. But the water coming out your faucet is going to be poisoned. What do you Sure. You have no water. And I'm not talking about 3 gallons. I'm talking about not even gallons. Some people's houses I've been to don't even have bottles. They have nothing. So I told them, like, you can start simply by just using $1. We know the water got poison in it. Right. Try to buy the best water. You can go to a well, travel to get water if you need to. But right now, you need to have some water more because the water that we have is you have to use it for sanitizing, cooking, cleaning. You never know if there's an emergency that you need water for, so you need that. And then you need to go for food. Like we were talking earlier, the Muhammad said that we will look at, our babies and with the desire to eat them. Yeah. Because famine would be that bad. So can you even have just imagine the thought of being so hungry that you would want to keep your child. So when I thought about that even growing up, I read that as a little girl and it always scared me, just thinking like I couldn't even, my mind cannot even wrap around that thought.
Yes.
So if we're not taking the instructions that we've been given seriously by just doing the basic, he says 3 to 6 months worth of food in our home. You can go to chat and type in what does 3 to 6 months worth of food look like for my family of 5, and it'll give you a breakdown. And I'm saying that to say we have no excuse of what not to have for our families right now. And a lot of it is just we're putting off today what we should be doing. We're putting off tomorrow what we should be doing today. And we can't keep putting it off because we keep thinking that when something happens, it's going to, we still got time. We got time. We're going to do it. But then one day, that is going to be it. That is going to be the shock of the hour. And it's not to fight anyone. It's just a reality that we're all going to have to go through. So if we're not even getting the basics that he told us to do, we're not going to survive. It's just what it is. We're not going to survive. So not only do we survive for ourselves, but we also survive for families that may have to be there with us. Whether they prepare or not, it doesn't matter. Because if they're there with you, they're trying to survive too. And if you don't prepare things for them, they're going to kill you. And they're going to take your food.
Yes. And I want to add to that, Mr. Sharif always said to us, he said, y'all have a big family. Yeah. You think your cousins is Pookie them, they got pickled pig feet at the house. Right. That ain't gonna save them. They don't know my Muslim cousin over there got some food. You need to have enough food for your entire family. Because they're gonna come and look for Uncle Paul. They're gonna come look for Auntie Jini. Oh, he got them radios. We gotta make our way over there. We know they got some beans. Sister Jini thinks she gonna hide them in the back. I know exactly what they are. So you gotta have, like you all said, for your family. I come from a big family. It's 10 of us. My mom had 14 grandchildren, great-grandchildren. I mean, that's just the immediate family. It's about 40 of us, just the immediate. And half of us is in the mosque, so we know what we're supposed to do, but that don't mean we're doing it. Right. And then you have the other half, that's the external family. That's about 60 of them. Yes. And guess what? They're gonna come if something happens to the person that they know is supposed to be doing what Uncle Elijah Muhammad, Uncle School Spark said to be doing. Yeah.
Y'all make me think about, there was a time in St. Louis where we had a blackout on the coldest day of the year. Then there was another blackout on the hottest day of the year. It was strange. But it was a taste test for me because I had to travel maybe 50 miles to a Walmart to get water. Everywhere else was without water because I wasn't prepared. And I want to bring to everyone's attention, you should know where the water treatment plants are in your town. You should do the logistics to know where's the water source in my town. Also, in a long protracted blackout, from the water, the pumps won't be able to pump the water to your house. So you gotta prepare for that. And then you gotta prepare water for if you have to bug in, and water if you have to bug out.
Right. That's right.
So if you have to evacuate, excuse me, they have the water in the little Mylar packs. They're like 4 ounces. You can put a bunch of them in your bag. Don't try to carry a whole bunch of bottles of water. Right. And if you store water at home, you want to get food grade water containers. When COVID hit, people didn't know that Walmart had a survival section, right? Yeah. I knew, so I was like, well, I'm gonna go. I'll walk slowly. I didn't have to worry. Everybody was all over the store. I go on back there. They had the food grade water jugs, and when I got to the cashier, people was like, "Where you get that from?" I had about 5, 6, 7 5-gallon food grade water containers. You can also order them on Amazon for about $79. You can get a 55-gallon. Now, when you fill it up, you won't be able to move it, but it comes with a pump. You'll be able to pump, and it comes with water preservation tablets. So you got to start thinking. And one last thing on the water that I have to mention, I have some blueprints. I haven't did it yet. I mean, I'm gonna do it on how to build a device that can extract water out of the atmosphere. And one of the things they use is dehumidifier is in that process. You can build it for under 300 according to the instructions. But think about a dehumidifier, it's always water. Think about your air conditioning. It's always dripping water, right? You just got to get you gotta know how to filter it out and take away the freon and take all that out of the equation. And then you can build something that can pull the water out of the atmosphere. So we gotta start thinking about that, because if we can't find no water source, we only gonna last, what, 3 days?
It-
So we got the water that's critical.
You can't even make Kool-Aid without water. So if you got Kool-Aid packets, you can't drink no water.
Can you dispose of your waste?
Nothing.
You know, there's a lot of things, won't be able to clean. You know, if you think about Hurricane Katrina, when they were in the stadium,
Terrible.
the unsanitary conditions that exist just because it wasn't no water, you know? And then if you don't prepare as a woman, in particular, you set yourself up to be subject to the one who has prepared.
That's it. That's it.
For that vagrant who wants your body, and he got food and you want to feed your baby, and now you got to make a decision.
Right.
I want you to think that over.
I was watching a movie, and in terms of what my husband just said, it said that a man whose house is burning is easier to negotiate with.
Mm-hmm.
So you think about when you don't have and you need, you know, you humble yourself, right? And sometimes for the wrong reasons. So I just also want to add in returns to the water, as far as water, if you have to bug out, you know, we bought water picks, you know, that have several different grades of filtration, layers of filtration, where if you have to go to a water source like a spring or something to that effect, you know, you can use these water picks, and they've been tested and graded, you know, to be able to purify the water so that you still have access to water. And some of them, you know, the higher quality ones, you know, can get you up to 14, 15, now it was like actually like 5,000 gallons of water, just from one little water straw water pick. You know, there's about this big, and you can store in your bug out bag, right? So now you don't have to carry, you can think about other stuff that you can store that you're gonna need, you know, because you got this water pick that's gonna at least get you 5,000 gallons of water. So that's another mode or method that you can use, that we could use as it relates to survival on, you know, that level, or if we have to leave the home.
Right. And I want to ask to that. I look at the survival channel, and you know, the Honorable Muhammad told us to study the white man. Now, my question is to my potential masters of survival here. I'll give y'all a title. One day we gonna need y'all real soon. Yeah. While watching the survival channel, I often see them have spots for their family, places they put bug out bags in the woods. They have they take water bottles, and they have a substance you can put in the water, even if you have to get it from, because you can't drink from every lake or stream because it can make you very sick. But they put something in it that'll purify the water where you can drink it. Is there anything that we are putting into place to teach our people how to do that as well? We might have to go in the woods. We might have to have a meetup spot.
Oh, yeah.
Also with coding, is there coding when it comes? I do know that we had a sister named Sister Teresa. She used to do this survival class in Atlanta all the time, and she used to give us nicknames because we didn't want to say our names on the radios. So she said, "Blue 21, copy. We're gonna meet at somewhere. Do we have something set in place that we could teach our people, and where can they find it?"
One of the things that I talk about in the radio class is your family emergency communications plan. And I'm gonna give y'all a tidbit, something called a calling clock, just with the communication side. If you start from the 12 o'clock hour and turn your radio on every 3 hours for 3 minutes on channel 3, the 333, they call it 333 calling clock. Every 3 hours, channel for 3 minutes, and channel 3, you preserve the battery life. So if I'm trying to find my family via communication, I know at 12 o'clock the radio is on. I know at 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock, the radio is on for 3 minutes. So those are times I'm gonna try to reach them while preserving battery life. And in lieu of your evacuation plan. So if you know, first you gotta say, who am I?
Right.
Why is it critical who am I, who I am? Because that will determine where you might be when a disaster happens. If you're a school teacher,
Right.
Who am I might be at school. If you are a construction worker, who am I might be in a construction job. Your children, who am I for your children, they might be at school. So you got to make your plan around the who am I's, right? So when it happened, that child knows this meeting place.
Right.
If something happened, I need you to go here. So you looking for him there, and if that place don't work, I need you to go here. So you got to have a plan A, B, C, and D. And D means don't let nobody stop you from doing what you got.
That's right.
So I'm going to speak real quickly on the bug out bag. I won't go into what needs to go into it, but you got a bug out bag, you have a vehicle kit, you got a get home bag, you got an everyday carry kit, and possibly a specialty. So you got to think in terms of those. I want you to do some research, look those things up. We can't give you everything on this show, but we can point you in the right direction.
That's right. I'm going to go ahead and let's.
She said, ditto.
This second, Brother Paul said, having your emergency plan in place is first. Just writing down again what your family needs, how long you all all the way down to your baby. What you all may need for 3 months surviving, all the way down to how many diapers your baby needs, bare minimum. Those things you should already have in place. As far as like having like comforts and things, I just was having this conversation with myself in the car, but I can't quote it. I wrote it down, but I don't have it with me at the moment. But the Honorable Mr. Woods Farrakhan said that some of these preppers that they're preparing for their own good. We're preparing to bring in a new world.
Right.
So our preparedness is going to look totally different than you were home. So I tell people all the time, I don't look at myself as a prepper.
Right.
I look at myself as a person that teaches disaster preparedness and is an advocate for it on preparing our family.
Right.
So if we have these emergency plans in place, like Brother Paul was saying earlier, we are actually practicing it, going through scenarios. Like I took my children out, and I wouldn't even call it camping because we only took what we could take for survival. So we had our go bag. We had just the basics of what we actually could carry. We slept outside. And the experience in my mind is totally different than a real experience. We had to fight off raccoons. We had to deal with mosquitoes throughout the night. I didn't sleep because I was afraid of raccoons coming in, spiders and different things. So we're not, you don't really know what you're up against when it comes to preparing. So we might be like, oh, I can sleep outside. No, it's a totally different type of element. Surviving, walking for long periods of time. So again, our biggest thing now is, first of all, training our bodies so we walk long periods of time, training our minds, training our bodies as far as fasting. Like you can't tell yourself when you can't eat, which I hear all the time, I'll do it when it's time. When that time comes, I'll fast. I won't eat. Matter of fact, not only will you eat, but you actually eat more under stress. You eat more because you're stressed. You want sugar, you need something to get your energy up. So if you're not teaching your mind, disciplining yourself, then you're not gonna make it through that time. So we should be continuously preparing ourselves, going through these scenarios, practicing not eating, like Brother said, practicing with the lights out with our children so that we know that we can get through this time.
Right.
Can I just add, because one thing that we don't mention is the mental side of it, right? My background is mental health, and if you're going through a disaster situation and you already have instability mentally, you're not going to make it, right? Because your focus is whatever level of emotion that you're experiencing internally, so you're not going to be able to react well.
Right.
So as part of the preparation for your mental part, you have to eliminate as many stressors or reduce as many stressors as possible, whether it be with bills or other necessities that you need. Eliminate those stressors. Secure your mental by whatever you need to practice as far as mental training, having a stable, solid faith or foundation of belief, because you're going to have to believe in something that's going to help us get through those dark moments, right? And to keep a positive light in our mind during those times of disaster so that we can still focus and react at the pace that we need to react at.
That's right. We are coming to an end to our show, so I have one more question. Go ahead, Brother Paul.
I got it. tell everybody this. Make a binder for your family. So, and in that binder, there should be tabs. And in those tabs, there are 7 things. One is any personal information that needs to be retained. And they should be in little plastic inserts in case for weatherization. So if the weather doesn't erode it or damage it. Financial information. Because sometimes people lose everything and they can't recover because they don't have the vital stuff that they need. Medical information, household information, legal information. Your bug out plan should be in there. Your communications plan should be in there. And some maps, some physical maps. Right? So I had to say that. And one last thing before you ask your question. If the phone service don't work no more, you can repurpose your phone to a digital library. If you got any portable power that could keep your phone running, which now you can buy little solar panels to keep the phone running. Put all your digital survival books and stuff on here. This becomes your library on the go. All right?
Well, my last question to you all would be, have you all ever been in a disaster? And what did you do? Now, I know I'm gonna call anyone, you know that. But what did you do if you have been in one? What did that look like for you?
I'm gonna speak about myself. So I was living in Miami at the time, North Miami Beach to be exact, and so I was within walking distance from South Beach or North Miami Beach. And a tropical storm occurred, and where we were housed at, it was on the other side of the bridge, meaning that when those alarms or sirens go off, they lift the bridge up where you can't cross into the inner part of it if you don't get across in time. And so you stay on the coastal part of it. And, you know, it's a one way up, one way down that'll take you all the way up, you know, to Georgia. However, it's along the coastline. So this is the tropical storm, living in a high rise on a 20-something floor. And me, I didn't react well. I mean, I just had to let it happen. I had to go in prayer and, you know, and I had my daughter with me at the time. And so I just had to go in prayer, keep her occupied as everything turned black and all this water started damming and the building started shaking from side to side, you know, because you got tropical force winds happening in the moment. Thank Allah that I did have food, you know, to eat. I had some things where I didn't have to go without, and thank Allah it didn't turn any more serious. But that was still a scary moment just to have that experience of, well, what would I do in the event I had to evacuate out of this building? I got to climb down 20-something flights of stairs because the elevator is not going to be sufficient for me in that moment. And then I have to consider, you know, our safety and security because I'm on the outskirts because I didn't make it to the inland part in time. So have your resources available. I'm living in a city where I knew people but didn't, you know, so not having that type of resource makes it again another difficulty factor because where do I go? You know, in the event of an emergency, and my communication was down too, so people couldn't communicate with me either. So you just think about, okay, you have to prepare these things in advance because in the moment it's too late.
It's too late.
That's right.
Well, I'll speak on one of the blackouts I was in, and my children were away, their mother was away at the time. And imagine total darkness on your street. You can't even see a speck of light in the distance unless somebody down the street turn a flashlight on. And it's hot, super hot. So I had to sleep by the window. And I wasn't as prepared as I am now, but I had to sleep by the window, and I slept with the window up because I wanted to stay alert for anybody that was trying to come in my house. And then I had to tune my ears to hear. So I booby trapped my doors. So like I put a pots and pans or something. So if somebody tried to come through, if I'm in that, you know, you're in that deep sleep where you don't hear nothing. If you don't have good security, you need to booby trap it where if somebody come in, something's gonna fall and it's gonna alert you. And it was intense, you know, and I won't say that I wasn't afraid, but spirit is natural. It comes in and it was like, man, this is real.
Yeah.
So just think that over, what you would do situation and start making preparations now. So I've been in a lot of different types of disasters and none of them are good. Flood being the worst.
The same with me. I've been through several disasters. One is the same as far as having a blackout where we were. And I was younger, but life was just normal and then boom. And like you say, you look outside and when I say darkness that I've never seen before in my life. I mean, you didn't even know who was coming up and down the street. It was that dark. And then it was the middle of winter for this particular disaster. And we were, told and things like that. And even at that time, we didn't have a generator. So, having to put plastic on the windows, finding ways to put plastic towels, looking for sheets and different things to put around the doors, trying to stay warm. Like we made a tent inside of the tent and we still were cold. You know what I mean? So just, like wrapping up, staying under each other and different things like that, how to preserve, like somebody had to go to the bathroom. It's like everybody need to go so that we don't let the heat out. Right. So we were just going through things. And at the end of the day though, because we worked together, it was kind of like, okay, it was an experience. But if something happens like this, and they say the lights will never come back on, are you prepared for that? So,
We're gonna save the best for last. So my mama, Felicia, she a soldier. Let me tell you, one day I was working at Perimeter Mall. It was 2017. We had that snowstorm in Atlanta. It wasn't really a snowstorm. It was Armageddon because we don't get snow in Atlanta like that. But we got ice. Yeah. And everybody from up north, I don't care what you say, you slid into that wall that day. Okay. But my mama came, she had a black Sable, she didn't have a Jeep, she didn't have a Hummer. She came and got me from work in a Sable, 4-door, she's straight Vanguard, okay? I don't know how we got home, but everybody else was sliding off the road and the wheels was just going. We took the back street, which wasn't a real smart idea, but the highway was really bad because everybody was just sliding out. Most of the people that was driving, they was from New York. I'm just sorry. And they got stuck. Okay. My mom took the back of the streets and we lived in Stone Mountain at the time. And by the grace of Allah, she got us home. After we got home, every other car just slid down and we lived on the hill. We made it up. We couldn't come back out for the next 5 days. Right. But we made it in. But that was one of the scarier disasters that we had in Atlanta, especially when you're not used to ice. Snow and ice are two different things. You can drive in snow. You cannot drive in ice, especially if you're not used to it. We didn't have the traction. We didn't have the salt. So Atlanta wasn't prepared at all. And during that time, I believe Kasim Reed was the mayor. After that, anytime they say something about cold front, they shut it down and they salt in the streets. They come a lot, they salt the streets. They come a lot, they close school too. I was in school then. But with that being said, I want to let all of you, let the people know where they can get some of the information. If you all have a seminar coming up, if you have any of your items that you sell, where can they find it? We'll start with your sister.
Yes, y'all can find me at arcsurplus.org. It's ARKSURVIVAO. Surplus SURPLUS.org. It's .com too, but I'm working on that. But you can get my books also on Amazon. I have a disaster preparedness book for children. I have a regular disaster preparedness book for adults that walks you through 30 days of preparing yourself and your family. And I do have a workshop that I'm going to be attending coming up in North Carolina at the end of this month, Greensboro. So if you're in that area, check it out.
And for Jini and brother Paul.
You can connect with us at temcom.com. That's TEMCOMM. That's TEMCOMM.com. And there's an opt-in box where you can contact us for any information. We'll give you a free book just for, it's not a book that we wrote or anything, but we'll give you a free disaster grid down survival book just for tuning in today to this podcast.
Praise God to Allah. Thank you all so very much. Before we go, we definitely want you all to make sure, visit us at 3638 Campbellton Road. 5 days a week. We're open Monday through Friday. You can come here. You can get your Fall of America, which is very important. Your How to Eat to Live, which is very important. Please make sure you get these books in the time that we are in. This is the time of what must be done. The Unconventional Farrakhan is preparing us and giving us the tools that we need in order to survive. And when that time comes, if you don't have it, that means you didn't want it. So please make sure you get the books, get the knowledge, and reach out to our wonderful guests. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please make sure you rewind, get that information so you can make sure you are prepared for the disasters that are coming. May Allah bless you all. Please, once again, make sure you visit us here at the 10,000 Village headquarters of the South. God's Art, People United for Change. We can't wait to see you all again next week. You have something else, Paul?
I'm gonna say, protect what you love.
That's right. Protect what you love. And guess what? Strong marriages make strong families. Strong communities, right? Strong nations. So we promote marriages as well. So 1-800, call these two. All right. May Allah bless you all. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back next week with 2 guests, and we're going to be talking about how to defend ourselves in the time of disasters. So yes, we have to defend ourselves. No, we don't even carry a penknife, but I will punch you. No, I'm swear. But may Allah bless you all. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for tuning in to the How to Eat to Live podcast. Assalamu alaikum.
When I met the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I met a man issuing a call to black people to come to Islam, to come not to join a religion, but to come to that which is yours by nature, that was taken from us when our fathers were brought forcibly to these shores over 400 years ago. Islam is the very power that we need to overcome our enemies, to master ourselves, and to master the circumstances that up to this point have mastered us. Islam is light, it is life, it is power. It is the son of law and truth and righteousness. Islam is everything, sun, moon, and star. Nothing escapes the purview of Islam. So when we say that we have accepted Islam, we have accepted our nature, we have accepted the nature of God, we have accepted truth in its broadest dimension, we have accepted law and righteous principle, and we say that we accept it because we intend to conform, to mold and shape our lives according to the truth. And if we do that, those who heed the call of God coming through the prophet or messenger or apostle, they generally avoid the destruction intended for the rejectors and the wicked.